My name is Eric Immesberger. I'm a retired ATF agent who worked murder-for-hire cases, and I've spent decades infiltrating, investigating, and working undercover to disrupt violent plots across the nation. And this is how crime works. These are targeted crimes. There's nothing random about a murder-for-hire. The public would be amazed at sometimes the value of human life is so little. I've seen people would be willing to kill somebody over a lot less than $5,000, a lot less. The vast number of murder-for-hire cases are the personal relationship. The most common of those are the husband-wife, the husband-girlfriend, another family member. This is an emotional divorce. This is a child custody dispute. This is a money-driven dispute, proceeds of a business, marital assets. There's a question of a lot of money. When we're involved as law enforcement doing the undercovers on these, most typically somebody has gotten himself into trouble on a completely unrelated criminal case. They're now sitting in an interview room and they want to help themselves. And they say, I know somebody that's looking to get somebody to commit a murder. They give the information, they introduce an undercover to the person looking to have this murder committed, and then we do what we do. On a murder-for-hire investigation, the target that you're meeting as an undercover, the whole premise of that type of investigation or that type of undercover is this person wants another person killed, and you're going to find out who that person is. They believe they're talking to somebody that's going to be able to commit a murder at their instruction. I've done undercover assignments, purchasing firearms. Really, that's the bread and butter of what ATF does. But murder for hire as a general type of undercover, it's really a niche type of case that ATF has really perfected in how we investigate it, how we evaluate it. I've worked on a few murder-for-hire cases, one of which I was the undercover that went the distance, as we say. We had 2 meetings the same night. There were numerous overt acts committed by the target. He paid me to do this. He provided me a photograph of his estranged wife. He gave me a floor plan of her apartment. We drove together during the first meeting. He pointed out, there's her apartment window. That's her car. That's where she works every day. He gave me her daily schedule. So these are all overt acts. This has gone beyond just talk. He wanted this done. This case came to our attention in the way that most of them come to our attention. Somebody got in trouble. So in this particular case with John Clevenger in 1999, a person had been arrested for a relatively low offense, but it was a crime. He had been arrested multiple times for DWI, driving under the influence, and he was a business owner, and he needed one thing. He needed his driver's license to not be revoked. That was all he was looking for. And when he found himself in the interview room, he said, my ace in the hole, I know someone that's trying to find someone to have his estranged wife killed. I'm willing to make an introduction with an undercover to Clevenger. He let Clevenger know, hey, somebody's gonna call you about what you want done. His name is Nicky. That was my undercover name. Then I was provided a phone number to call Clevenger. The initial call had one goal, to set up a face-to-face meeting. That call was probably less than a minute. Hey, this is Nicky. I heard you need a piece of work done. If somebody ever said a piece of work done, there was no mistaking that for anything other than a murder. A piece of work, that's street reference to murder. Mission accomplished. I set up a face-to-face meeting. My initial contact, the first time I spoke to the target, John Clevenger, on the telephone was September 7th of 1999 in North Kansas City, Missouri. I met with him at about 8 o'clock at night in a McDonald's parking lot. I met with him again in the same parking lot at 10 o'clock that night. I can't say, all right, think about it, call me in a week. I can't have a potential victim out there. I don't know who else he's dealing with. The guy I was dealing with, not a passing emotion. He was intent on having this murder committed. One of the foundational principles when we do these murder for hire cases is, as the undercover, we want to dial out the micro emotional person where the feeling is going to pass. Every time I gave him an opportunity to back out, end this conversation, end this talk, end this plot, I'm not backing out. I want this done. Some of the phrasing that he used was, she ripped my heart out, she threw it in the dirt, and she put her footprint on it. I can't live with this anymore. I think she's been unfaithful. He then provided the same night, I've thought about just going and killing her myself and then killing myself. I have tried to get somebody to do this. It didn't progress. I found another person to kill my estranged wife. I paid him $4,500. He just hasn't done it yet. Or he stole my money, or, a few different excuses he gave of why it wasn't done. But the fact is, there is a real victim, that there's somebody out there that's already agreed to do this and taken money. By his admission, I'm hitman number 3 that he's dealing with. So this is a person that is far gone beyond the micro emotional, I'm a hothead talk tonight, but I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and I don't want this done. This is a guy that's predisposed to this offense, meaning he has actually tried to make this happen long before I came into the picture, before he met me. We don't make somebody a criminal, we investigate criminals. As they say in Missouri, we're fishing in the right pond. I'm investigating a real criminal. And we don't suggest to them at all. They do the talking. And they, in most times, can't wait to unburden themselves to tell you all about it. This is what I do. This is what I've thought about. This, I think, would be a good idea. And at that point, all the mental check boxes, elements of the crime, the intent, the payment, overt acts, all the emotional statements, all taken together, examined as a whole. This needs to be stopped immediately. We provide no advice. If you think about it, like, I am giving you the stage, I am giving you a microphone to talk to me. I don't want you to hear me telling you, well, this is how I would do this, this is how I would do that. I want to know what you've thought about. I want you to tell me, how do you want this done? This is what you're going to say. This is how you're going to get in the front door. This is how you're going to get my wife to open her door. She'll open the door. Say this. The method that it got distilled down to, I don't want her to suffer, knock her out, and stab her to death. He believed his wife was involved in cocaine. She was working in a bar, and I think she's selling cocaine. So when you kill her, I want you to sprinkle cocaine on a plate, throw it on the floor, throw some money on the floor. And it was very specific that he wanted the cocaine diluted or cut up, as we say, with baking soda. He said, this will look like a drug deal that resulted in this murder. I asked him, how am I going to get into this locked building and a locked apartment? The office doesn't open until 9 o'clock. At 8 o'clock in the morning, you are going to ring the bell to get into the building. Ring anybody's bell. The maintenance man, his name is Bernie. Ring any bell. You're going to say, I'm a plumber. Bernie sent me. There's a leak in an apartment. Can you unlock the door? Typically, who's not going to unlock the door? Okay, Bernie, I know who that is. Bernie's directed you, plumber, to come into the building. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's not 2 o'clock in the morning. Knock on her door. And you just say, Bernie sent me. I'm a plumber. There's a leak in the apartment underneath yours. I just need to get in for a minute and let me see what might be leaking in your apartment that's going to the apartment underneath you. And he said, she'll open the door. Again, this was not, let me think of a method. I'm dealing with a real criminal. I'm dealing with somebody that's committed multiple overt acts in these 2 meetings. In addition, I asked him, all right, John, you want cocaine put at this crime scene? Give me some cocaine. He's like, well, I don't have any. I'd have to go look around. I'm like, thinking to myself, he's not a cocaine dealer. I just told him, I'll get my own cocaine. Give me an extra $500. Okay, that's a good idea. And I asked him one more question. I already knew the answer to this question. I asked him, where's the nearest police station? I already knew where the police station was, the North Kansas City Police Headquarters across the street from the wife's apartment building. And he answered immediately, it's right across the street. Another part of this layered, examination of this plot is he talked about, I need an alibi. Of course I'm going to be talked to by the police. I'm the estranged husband. And we talked about an alibi. Be seen at work, get gas, get a receipt, go get something to eat. And he's like, well, you're going to do this at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to be in, and he named Parkville, another community about a 15-mile drive from where the wife lived. He goes, I'm going to be at work. The guys, they'll see me. They'll know I'm with them. I'm not at the scene of this murder. Check, another check. He's thought about an alibi. He knows he's going to be interviewed by the police. And that's when I started shaping the battlefield, setting the table for how we were going to do this arrest. Knowing that the police station is directly across the street from his wife's apartment building, we got the local police department. Obviously, they've been briefed in on what happened and what's been going on. We said, we're going to set up a fake crime scene. Yellow tape, cops with clipboards. In ATF, we call that street theater. I want to make the bad guy come to an inaccurate conclusion based on accurate information. He sees a whole crime scene, cops, clipboards, crime scene van, yellow tape. He's going to conclude, he did it. He did it. Look at this. Look at this magic show going on. And I knew he would have to see that because he's going to be called to be interviewed at the North Kansas City Police Department, directly across the street. He cannot not see that when he turns into the police department parking lot. And that is exactly what happened. When he was contacted by a police detective, John, something has happened to your wife. I'm not going to talk to you about this over the phone. Can you excuse yourself from work, come down to the police station just so we can talk to you? I'll be right there. Drives down to the police department, sees this fake crime scene that we've set up for his viewing, to make him think, ooh, my wife really did get killed. Murder for hire, payment to an undercover or a non-law enforcement actual murderer, I have never heard of other than a cash payment. Why? Cash is king. I can take this and I can go and do anything I want with it. And it's relatively untraceable. And to the point, Clevenger, when he told me, oh, $5,000, that sounds reasonable. Again, we give them the stage to do all the talking. And he said, well, I sold the business recently. I have a lot of cash on hand, so there's no records of transactions of this money going out of a bank account to me, to you. It's the same with when we buy stolen firearms, when we buy firearms from violent convicted felons, we buy crack, meth, coke. another murder for hire case I was involved with where a federal incarcerated inmate wanted a person on the outside murdered. That price was $5,000 also. I'll take half up front tonight because I'm doing this tomorrow morning. And here's how you're going to get me my other half. Crazily enough, when I told him, because I have to find out who is hitman number 2, I'm going to get your money back. I'm going to keep half, but I'm going to give you half of the money. I'm going to get your money back from this guy. A further component of half down, half after this act is committed. I wanted to see, how do you want me to receive, how am I going to get the other half of the money? Well, it was agreed, you're going to mail me to my post office box the remaining half. But now, how am I going to get half the money that I recover from hitman number 2 back to him, and $1,000 of whatever cash I find in the wife's apartment from either her drug sales, tip money, salary, whatever she squirreled away in the apartment? This is what this guy tells me, and this gives you an idea what you're dealing with. Clevenger is dealing with somebody he believes is going to commit a murder for money. He gives me his parents' name, his parents' home address, and he goes, I want you to put the money, very specific, in a Velveeta cheese box and mail it to my parents' house. If you take an unemotional look at that, you're telling a guy that you just meet the first time your parents' address. Did the good idea fairy say, mail it to my parents' address? Why don't I tell this murderer where my parents live? It's crazy. In reality, real life, a real hitman, I'm not mailing anything back to you. I'm keeping everything. $4,500 from hitman number 2, going in my pocket. Everything, cocaine, money, and any other thing that I want to take out of your wife's apartment, I'm going to take it all. Who are you going to complain to? Oh, this guy hired to murder my wife. He didn't give me the money he said he was going to give me. In reality, I'm keeping everything. Cases where there is no law enforcement involvement in a murder, let's specifically murder for hire, an investigative method is going to be, we have somebody that we're starting to like for this, a potential person that put this plot into motion. We're going to subpoena every financial transaction they've done in quite some time. Is there any correlation between an agreed upon amount to a cash withdrawal, a check, money received and money out? These cases are like any other criminal investigation. Who stands to benefit? Follow the money. So how does somebody percolate this plot looking for somebody? They discuss it with people that they know. Like, hey, do you know anybody that would do this? They may say, yeah, and have a name to refer. It's literally that simple, the genesis of these kind of plots. There's no website, hitman or us, call us, we will make your problem disappear. That doesn't exist. And in these plots, any criminal investigation, if we believe that any electronic device has been used in furtherance of any crime, that's going to get looked at. And anything that occurs online is discoverable. You may think you deleted it. You deleted it. You can't see it. You didn't delete it. Still there. Still on your computer hard drive. Still on your phone hard drive. Still on the whoever you sent stuff to. And by the way, if we see 25 searches in your Google Schmoogle, how long to get a life insurance payout? How deep does a body have to be buried? And the questions go on and on. Okay, a murder's been committed. Why did you do these searches? Did you have, like, are you writing a book? Did you have a curiosity? I have not seen a Hollywood production that is really rooted in reality of how these plots actually occur. A murder for hire plot is such a small niche, less than 1% of murders in general. It's not a question of does the public fear the murder for hire scenario? They're not fearful of it. They're curious of it. It is just a naturally out there subject. Just the word hitman, tell me more. I want to hear, I'm curious. I was in the investigative business, and in a murder for hire, there is no great lag of time. A legitimate hitman, and there have been enough of them, they don't want to create all of this things leading back to them. I'm not stalking a victim. A logical, ordered thinking, actual murder suspect. They want to get the job, they want to get paid, and they want to commit the act with as limited exposure to them as humanly possible. And that is reality. Do I want to create breadcrumb trails in all these different directions, exposing me when law enforcement conducts an investigation? Answer, no. So that's where reality and Hollywood diverge. From the law enforcement perspective, murder for hire investigation, we are moving that quick, Ricky tick tick, as we would say. I've been hired to burn houses down, and I had one gal that wanted her house burnt down for insurance money. She was having a dispute with the family couple and 2 little kids. And again, just to see where she was at. Well, what if I have to do this when they're in the house? Quote, I'll get over it. If I was a real arson for hire, I'm getting the job, I'm getting the money, I'm committing the act, and that's it. In and out. And that's a theme in the general criminal conduct underworld. From hundreds of arrests that I've made, hundreds, if not over 1,000 interviews, interrogations, talking to my peers, my pals, their cases, their interviews, their interrogations. Common factor, bad guys want to be in and out with any criminal act. The case ended the next day with the arrest of John Clevenger, the wife being put in protective custody until we could arrest John. I wanted the mental feeling in Clevenger that when he walked into that interview room, that he felt invincible, bulletproof. This murder occurred. I'm done with her. He's in an interview room. John, your wife's been killed. Do you know anyone that would have wanted to do this? Were you involved in this at all? And he started with the expected emotional reaction. He's crying. I don't know who would want to do this. Of course, I had nothing to do with this. I love my wife, and all the things that we would expect to hear. He's laid out his alibi. Of course, I wasn't there when this happened. I was over here. You can talk to anybody. After that has run its course, one of the detectives said to John, John, you are really upset. Would you mind speaking with our grief counselor? Would that be okay, just to, help calm you down a little bit? Yeah, I'll speak with your grief counselor. Well, I'm the grief counselor. I come into the interview room. I've got my ATF neck badge on. John immediately looks down at the table. He won't look at me. And one of the detectives says, John, do you know him? And John goes, no, I don't know him. I don't know who that is. And I say, John, Nicky from Brooklyn. And he goes, yeah, I know who he is. And then we actually had to explain to him that I did not actually kill his wife. I'm like, we're law enforcement. We saved your wife's life. You wanted your wife murdered. We didn't murder your wife. The whole case was over in probably less than 16 hours from the meeting to the arrest, to the wife being informed of everything. These cases have to move rapidly because we have a potential life in danger. He's told me he's paid somebody $4,500 to kill his estranged wife. How do I find out who this person is? He gives it right up. He goes, his name is Mike. This is where he lives. This is his address. This is his car. I think he gave me the license plate number. And he said he's done a number of years in state prison on cocaine charges. So now we know who this other hired hitman is. And we got in front of him the next day. He was on parole. We violated his parole. He went back to prison immediately. He explained he basically just stole the money. He was never going to commit a murder. Really? Maybe. Who knows? Why take the chance? We know you're definitely not going to commit that murder because you're going back to prison. The following spring of 2000, John Clevenger pled guilty in state court to the charge of attempted murder, and he agreed to a 12-year sentence. Vast amount of my time, I was the leader of a task force. That's what I did for 15 of my 21 years. ATF became really known to me when I was an investigator with the New York City Department of Investigation back in the 80s. And I was doing a lot of undercover work, a lot of quick hitter, not dangerous undercovers, but a lot of undercovers, posing as a corrupt city official, a corrupt attorney, and I was getting paid off a lot. My bosses at Department of Investigation said, look, we want to put you in a formal undercover training school. You had to have distinguished yourself as a federal agent somewhere else or as a police detective, some type of investigative capacity. And it was a rigorous process to get in. But as we say in ATF, we don't hire introverts. So they wanted just a person that was 110% committed to drilling investigations down to bedrock. We don't stop, this is what we do, and we're gonna make a difference by removing the most violent segment of society. So Nicky from Brooklyn, the name Nick or Nicky it's almost like John. It's such a common name in the Brooklyn community where I was a detective, where I lived. These were my neighbors, these were people I dealt with all the time, plus the senior leadership that was in charge of me. It just became natural. I'm not Italian, not 1% Italian. Within Brooklyn, I can't pass as Italian at all. However, outside the New York Northeast area, where I've done undercovers in Midwest, Southern state, Nicky from Brooklyn was accepted by the targets I dealt with unchallenged. Who else talks like that? I've been out of New York City probably 11 years now. So I lost a little bit, but when I lived in Brooklyn in early days of ATF, I sounded like my cousin Vinny, literally. Nobody knows anybody's last name. We'd grab somebody and they would want to cooperate against other people in an organization. And we'd say, what's their name? They go, Psycho, Crazy Man, Johnny Wrench. Everybody's got a nickname. So why reinvent the wheel? I'm Nicky from Brooklyn. This is how I talk, the hands, the whole thing. Literally, I was almost like a character actor, learning from these real Italian guys and gals and my neighborhood and people I arrested, and it just all got blended together. Nicky from Brooklyn. During training, specific undercover training, it's broken up into two types of training. You have a classroom training where you're going to hear from veteran undercover ATF agents. These are techniques. This is how you put survival safety on your side of the table. These are the methods. This is the equipment. They'll do case studies. There'll be a very detailed examination of some of our most successful undercover operations and why they were successful, the techniques that were employed. So there's that classroom portion. The other half is actual training that we do in a public setting where there will be an actual bar, nightclub, dance club, whatever kind of public location, and this is a very heavily monitored situation, so it's not dangerous to the public, but we want this training to occur in a realistic setting. It really boils down to we like to say it's not for everyone. But if you're interested and you want to perfect the craft, literally your appearance is not the factor. The car you're driving, not the factor. The tattoos, they're all props. The one factor that matters to an undercover is what tumbles out of your mouth. How do you speak? What you say, how you say it, that is what makes the difference. You have to be likable. Nobody wants to deal with an unlikable person. Not every ATF agent is going to excel as an undercover operative, but the people that raise their hand, it's a volunteer sport, and my hat's off to every single one of them. Masters of the craft, and there's just no other way to put it. The tools available to law enforcement should give anyone pause to being involved in any type of criminal activity. You leave a digital footprint everywhere you go with everything you do. Every undercover contact, the minimum is an audio recording. A perfect world situation is a video and an audio recording. When a target is presented a video of themselves engaged in the criminal conduct, it's cold water to the face. In this particular scenario, it was a audio only recorded meeting. The technology in 1999 is light years different from the technology of 2026. For that particular undercover, it was a digital recorder. It was on my person, 2 microphones, and sometimes the simple method is the best method. And I was 100% confident I was not going to be subjected to a search. You're seeking me out. I'm not seeking you out. If anything, it would make sense. I want to make sure you're not law enforcement trying to, have a conversation with me. There was one comical comment that Clevenger made during the second and last undercover contact that night. As I'm counting out the money, and I'm audibly counting out the money because I want it memorialized. I'm going 100, 200, 300. He gave me $100 bills. He says to me, "Is this where you pull out a gun and arrest me?" I kept counting, and I'm like, "John, been watching too much TV, pal. 3,000, thank you." And no further questions about any of that with him. Almost every undercover, ATF, other federal agency, police undercover, you're going to have that moment, or you may have several of them, where you're going to be challenged as to who you really are. I was negotiating a deal for 20 kilos of cocaine, and this was taking place over several meetings in Kansas City. Again, Nikki from Brooklyn. And the bad guy challenged me several times, but yet he is the guy that furthered this deal that he wanted to do. He wanted some arson for profits committed. He wanted this 20-kilo cocaine deal that he believed I was a New York guy and I would be able to give him some, fantastic deal. And I'm challenged, but not immediately. As a matter of fact, the contact that I had with him, that was probably 6 hours long between a drawn-out high-end dinner, followed by an evening at a jazz club, 6 hours long between these two meetings one night. And he is pushing this cocaine thing, but then at the end of the night, he goes, "Nikki, I don't know who you really are, but I'm gonna find out. Because I had somebody get your water glass with your fingerprint on it, and I've got a police officer friend that's gonna be able to run your fingerprint, and we're gonna find out exactly if you are who you say you are. Like, knock yourself out. Gonna find out exactly what I told you." And then within 30 minutes of breaking contact, we then put some safety measures in place that even if he had the resources to do what he said, they were going to find out my cover story and not that I was a member of law enforcement. So that challenge happened, and that was, well over 20 years ago. I've had some other gentle challenges, but not where they really think I'm an undercover member of law enforcement. I never had that, other than Mr. Kilo guy I just talked about. That guy just wouldn't come off. And then as the challenges got more and more, I did what any good undercover would do. Hey, you know what? Cocaine doesn't grow on trees. Call me sometime if you're for real. And I ended it. And that's what a real bad guy would do. It's like, how many times are you gonna challenge me and I'm not gonna react to that? Only a member of law enforcement would try everything to salvage that. I'm like, not salvaging anything. I'm like, move on. Okay, thank you. And there was ultimately a disagreement over price per kilo, and that was never going to be resolved. So we just said, okay, thank you, enough. So if we perfect a case on an extremely violent individual, they're going to be in prison for a long time. Should we be concerned about others in the organization that are not in prison, that they may want to exact some type of revenge for their buddy? And the resounding answer to that is nobody wants to go down with a sinking ship. I'm going to put myself in jeopardy to try to approach the law enforcement person responsible for my friend's demise. They know we didn't put their friend in that position. Their friend put themselves in that position. They're in our handcuffs. They put themselves in the handcuffs. So am I concerned about my identity for the type of work I did? Not a concern that overwhelms my day, but I'm aware. When those type of cases come up, it's going to get the attention. In the undercover I did, where I got hired to kill an estranged spouse, almost the direct quote from the estranged husband that hired me, when I asked him, how are you going to know that this happened? He goes, this is going to be on the news. Nothing like this has happened in 50 years in this little area. Everybody's going to hear about this. It's going to be on the news. That's how I'm going to know. And like anything else that gets attention, it can lead people to believe that this is a much larger occurrence. There have been some very niche, real cases of people that have repetitively committed murders for hire, or so they state. Richard Kuklinski, also known as the Iceman, by his admission, he's killed well over 100 people. And he came to be in prison for the rest of his life through an undercover done by an ATF agent out of New York that got into the mix with Kuklinski, got recorded conversations about murders he had committed, and he was ultimately arrested, and he's not going to victimize anybody else. That is not common for, a so-called hitman. The chances of going the distance and being never discovered, never a case made on you, near impossible. There's a lot of things, programs, formal trainings that are in place to deal with the mental aspect, the mental preparation. We don't need to dwell on the bad all the time, on duty, off duty, thinking about it, replaying it, thinking about it. All the trainings, the preparation, the mental health counselors, the formal sit-downs that undercovers will have with mental health professionals on a regular basis, again, to inoculate the emotional toll and help you realize, okay, understand why I'm feeling like this. I'm going to talk to somebody, or I have mechanisms now at my ready to move through this problem. When I came on board ATF in '98, the vast majority of people I were hired with were drawn to ATF, in particular, enamored with the undercover technique, and the majority of people wanted to do undercover work. Why else would you want to come to this agency? They were really the federal agency doing the most of it. That has changed a bit to current, where it's not the majority of people coming into ATF that this is why I want to be here, I want to do undercover work. It's a wider variety of people that are coming in the door now. We have people that have quite an expertise in the arson, explosives, firearms, trafficking, violent home invasion crews, armed robbery crews. So there's a wide variety of violence that ATF agents investigate. It's not all undercover work, but there are a collection that have really honed the craft of how to do this. Our firearms drivers for this particular kind of type of crime, murder for hire, maybe not. A firearm is a tool, and it's a legal commodity, legally sold to the first purchaser. It's from that point that firearms get diverted to criminal purpose, prohibited people in possession of them to commit crimes. The gun is not the problem. It is the prohibited person that possesses the gun with criminal intent. That's the problem. That's who we look at. In this particular murder for hire with Clevenger, didn't want a firearm involved. We've had cases where people are killed in about every imaginable manner you could think of. The gun, again, it's not hard to manipulate a trigger pointed at a human being and that person is shot or killed. So there's a factor of ease. If you're going to stab somebody to death, you have to be in less than arm's distance to execute that type of murder. The main focus, the eyes on the prize in every single one of these investigations is, we're here to save a life. We are here to stop this plot. We take no pleasure in that. It's the removal of someone from society that legitimately wanted another human being killed and did multiple acts to further that plot.
Hi, I'm a producer on How Crime Works. If you enjoyed this video, then please subscribe and comment below with more ideas of topics you'd like us to cover in this series.